You're on.
Good morning, everyone. It's April 10th, and this morning it is the Northborough Design Review Committee. We don't have to read the blurb because we're all in person. So welcome, everybody. I was planning on doing the meeting a little bit out of order. I was going to start with minutes. We had 3 sets of minutes. Did everybody have a chance to read the December 12th minutes?
I did.
I did, there was a late email with some markups, I think, did you do those? Or
I did them.
you did them, okay. I like the part where the AI scolded us for, I think, excessively.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh, you highlighted it, so. It just.
Is it gonna be in the minutes? It said AI was.
Yeah.
Where is that?
I've gotta find the right email now. Doing this out of order. Blaming you. Okay.
I don't see the red.
I did appreciate the 213
It
minutes.
came in.
They were a little more
Laurie.
detailed.
Yeah, next meeting. So it's the last one.
So which one are we doing then?
The 12.
The December
December
12th,
12.
this is the oldest.
Yeah, there's a lot of red on this one.
Yeah, I did those changes.
Okay, so
I
you
took,
did those, okay.
yeah, I have the transcript and I just added what we talked about.
Okay.
Do you have any changes or you want to read them quickly?
Yeah, let me just quickly look at your changes. 'Cause- Yeah, okay, yeah, so that's all the stuff we got. Rigid, clarity, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Should I make a motion?
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion to.
Is free spelled right?
Have to double check. I'd like to make a motion to check on trees. Hold on.
Never means, probably not.
Where is trees?
In the red, about an inch down. The
Just
blank.
above field canopy signs and definitions.
So it'd be right at the top of that page.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't look great.
There's I before E,
I
it's
think
not
that's
after
I
C, and
before
it
E.
doesn't sound like A.
I think it's FRIE.
Let you know in a minute. Yep, FRIEZE.
Okay, we'll change
Well, the
that.
first time I've ever spotted the spell.
Okay. You wanna, did we finish the motion?
Well, now,
Yeah, sorry.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the 12/12/24 meeting minutes with the, what's the word?
Amendments.
Amendment, thank you, a long time, amendment, spelling of freeze, to change it to FRIEZE.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
And we don't really have to take a roll call vote, because we're here.
Yeah.
Do we raise our hand? We just say,
Or just say
aye.
okay,
It's been so long with the Zoom, I don't know how to go back to where we started.
this one.
The next minutes had some amendments too. January 9th, 2025.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the committee discussed at length, that's the AI added that.
Oh, I'm like,
You
I crossed
crossed it
off
off and added the purpose.
because I like to stick to the facts. I'm like, I don't know.
Just
But I guess maybe we did discuss that line.
according to the AI.
That was a matter of opinion.
But I did use Grok, so it's got Elon Musk's opinion in it. Yeah, yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the January 9th, 2025 meeting minutes as presented.
As amended,
Oh, the red is amended.
because
right.
this is
Yeah, that's
her
right.
amended version.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. Aye.
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 Okay, the last set was, February 13th, 2025,
Okay.
and I didn't have any
You
changes
didn't
to
have
that.
one that.
Hey, Bob. I'm gonna put you on speakerphone. We're just finishing up the minutes.
Okay.
You wanna make a motion?
Are you there?
I mean, you don't have-
Are you there, Bob?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
So,
so,
213.
okay, and then nominees.
hold on.
We're just finishing the minutes.
I can hear you. You're gonna have to speak up just a little bit, but.
Oh, okay, thanks.
I'm going over the signed bylaws. Everything else at work appears to be kind of, okay. Definitions under temporary sign.
Bob, can you just hold on a minute, because they're in the middle of a motion to approve the minutes.
Sorry.
It's just 1 sec.
Okay, there's no changes to these, I've read them.
All right, you want me to make it? You make it.
No, I don't know how to do it.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to accept the 2/13/25 minutes as presented.
I'll second.
Aye.
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 Okay, all 3 sets of minutes have been approved.
Unanimously.
And we have Bob on the phone. Thank you for calling in.
Hi, folks. Sorry I'm not there in person.
Hi, Bob. Well, you can keep your cold germs at home.
You're gonna have to speak up just a little bit. I think we're good now. I was mentioning to Lori, definition of temporary sign. Is there any for the use of a temporary sign?
Yeah, we changed it last year. It was 30 or 60 days. I can't remember now off the top of my head. It was whatever every other town has.
I think we changed it to 30 or something like that.
Yeah,
I
it
think
was-
30 was right, because a month makes,
Sign says only temporarily, it doesn't, it says for a specific length of time, but you don't give that time frame.
Did we have a change to temporary signs for this year?
I don't know what's going on with history, I'm just looking for what you have on the paper right now.
Oh, okay, so what did Lori send you? Did she send you the one that she was sending to Stephanie?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna open that on my computer.
Did we just add like unrigid or something?
that was in the minutes.
Yeah,
But I don't think we talked about time this year.
no, it wasn't this year, because I like the old way better, but. Because it covers the holiday season versus just the
So-
1 month.
What are you looking at in the, I just want to do this fast here. You're looking at the sign bylaw and you're looking at what, the definition? Of what?
temporary sign, it used to be number 33,
Yeah, we did that last year.
it's under the Spanish board sign.
Bob, we revised that last year. So we went from 56 days to 30 days. That was the only change made.
Okay, so the temporary sign,
Is it getting
Why is it
sandwiched?
red? new designation in here.
I'm sorry?
Okay, you got a definition for a temporary sign.
Oh.
Which you say was changed last year, which means it should be in the current book.
Yes, but we haven't updated the book to reflect the changes from last year yet.
Okay, so we're looking at a 2-year update to the book.
Yeah, probably, because we have to wait until they update the online version before we send it to the printer.
So if everything goes through and it gets sent to the printer, the temporary sign will have a 30-day limit on signs?
Correct.
Thank you, alright. Window wrap. I would think a window wrap is any film that's applied to a window,
Right.
whether it's on the interior or the exterior of a window. Okay, a window wrap may not necessarily be a sign, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's what our number 17 says. It
Yeah.
says Window wraps are intended as a window cover. Window wraps may cover the whole window, but only 10% of the window wrap may incorporate signage. So window wrap is not a sign. However, it may have a sign incorporated into the window wrap.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just gonna keep going. Designer, utility committee, small projecting line, freestanding, and downtown business district. Okay, all signs right here is okay. Re-lettering of the sign is okay. Number 5 non-conforming. No signage on the part of or attached to roof. Okay. Also moving animated and designed to attract the eye by intermittent or repeated motions is prohibited. Alright. Construction, erection, location. Who will the building inspector? Only on property advertised, yeah. Awning signs, first floor only, not to exceed above top. Holdings, signs, lot 10%, and we spoke about all that, that's fine. Projecting blade signs 10 feet rear level, violation of light, so for window wraps. 17, window wraps will cover the whole window may incorporate standard. Window wrap designs, try to improve, design to create installation. Window wrap signs shall be approved by the design review committee before installation. Is that in all districts or is that just downtown business?
Oh, because that's in the, just in the regulation part, it's not under a certain district.
Okay, I'm just curious as to, you know, where this lands.
Yeah,
As attached to the size. Fuel island canopies, 20%, yeah, business is just. One standard for sign may be used for each tenant. Okay, that's kind of a good change, because you got, multiple businesses, say where Rocky Takes Hardware is. The formal language used to be one on a lot. And now you're gonna allow it for one for every tenant, which may mean more signage, you know, apron signs. But, we'll have to see how that goes as it comes around.
where are we? I think he's here.
Number 20.
Well, hold on a second. Go back to sandwich boards for one quick,
Oh,
quick
120.
question. The sandwich boards are supposed to be taken in every night and brought out. They're not supposed to stay there overnight.
Right.
Is that still in there?
It says it, the sign shall be brought in at the close of each business day.
Good.
Where is that?
Number 20, last
Yeah,
sentence.
I see it, right, thank you. Okay, that's fine. Now sign should look like it should all except. Please, yeah. Yeah. Business history. So, parenthesis 2, location is a total strikeout, right? Last section before the affordable housing inclusion article.
Yeah, because I think we moved those into different sections of the bylaw.
Right.
So we crossed them out, we moved them up.
In inclusion of affordable housing, I don't really have anything to do with that. That's
Right.
planning and everything else. That really doesn't get into my wheelhouse at all.
This was just about signs. You had sent me an email and I'm looking for it now where you had questions before a planning board meeting. And you had questions about the window sign definition. But now I'm looking for it.
Do you know if that his voice can be heard well enough over the air? Or do we have to sum up at the end of doing no extra changes? What do you think? So I don't know if that will carry enough
Oh, to get in the
to
minutes?
get in, yeah.
We can add to the minutes and he didn't have any additional comments or questions. Like, he agreed with
Yes,
everything here.
to confirm that,
Confirmed,
as it
yeah.
were.
But there was an email that Bob had sent out that you had some questions. But now I have to find it.
I remember sending the email out, but I don't remember the exact content.
Right.
You have to forgive me, I'm a little bit fuzzy today.
I'm just trying to search for it in my email. I can't hit my email with my computer.
Oh, here we are. I've got an email from you dated February 12th. Thanks for the document. Definitions applied to a window does not differentiate between interior and exterior. So I'll assume it's both either surface.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, I agree.
You can put it on the inside or the outside. I don't think it matters.
seen, window wraps and window stickers and things like that, both on the inside and the outside.
Right,
Just for clarification, if somebody comes up and puts like let's say they put a Budweiser sign, like a neon Budweiser sign in the window, that would be considered a wall sign in the generic sense of the word.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a wall sign. It would be a window sign.
If it's like if it's an electronic type sign, like Molson Golden Ale or something, it hangs on the inside of the window surface, but not attached to the window, what would that be classified as?
I would think it'd be a window if you can see through it. Like if it's hanging in the window, like I've seen it. The liquor store has little hooks on the inside of the window and they hang them down so they show through, but that's the same thing as a window sign.
I would, in that case, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out, deal with it and how to enforce it.
Right,
well, it's using a window to be seen.
yeah, but we have to figure out how
I mean, right?
it's written in the bylaws, so then it's enforceable.
Yeah, I think you need to, because when the direction of a window sign doesn't address that situation. So if somewhere in the bylaws, if by chance there's a hanging poster or if there's a hanging electrical device that is displayed through a window, that shall qualify as a window sign. It needs to follow the window sign requirements.
I don't know how we can add that at this point. I mean, it's due tomorrow and we don't have a planning board meeting until next week.
Can you make an amendment on the floor? Or,
Yeah, I think we should just deal with it next year because I think it's too late to add something brand new that hasn't been discussed with the planning board.
Right.
Yeah.
And-
One of the questions I had, and I apologize for bringing that up, Stuart. But, I mean, there's a lot here anyway. So, if you have to follow till next year, here's what it is.
I almost hate to leave one thing hanging though, because if you bring one thing to town meeting, it's gonna stand out like a sore thumb and it's more likely gonna be
But
an issue.
we still haven't, residential signs and I don't think we've dealt with industrial signs yet. So that would be next year.
What about, they opened the warrant to put TIFs in, did they close the warrant after?
Yeah,
It's been closed.
but, you know, they are talking about a fall town meeting too. It came up a couple times. I don't know what they're thinking of doing on it.
Hmm.
But, my thing is, do we bump the whole thing to the fall?
I think we should go forward. We've been talking about it for 3 years.
Yeah, provided this doesn't get bumped for good, because this is one of the bigger problems.
Right. But then if we just bring up this on its own, then it's gonna stand out like a sore thumb and it's gonna be,
It's a housekeeping issue to deal with something that's not addressed in the window sign bylaw.
You can always state that, it was an unforeseen situation,
yeah,
that we really thought of, and said, this is something like that caught us off guard, and then just go from there. But it is kind of a housekeeping situation. It's a question to a what if. It's an answer to a what if type of question.
right. And I did look up a Medway bylaw and they cover it in their sign bylaw. Like they have a definition of a window sign and it covered that. But I don't have it here because my computer won't hit.
Well, last year we addressed window signs as number 12. And we said window signs are allowed in business districts only. All combined window signage shall be limited to 10% of the total glass area on any facade side of the building. So if they wanted to make an electric one, it would be part of the calculation, I would imagine.
But what Bob is saying, it's not actually attached to the window. They hang it on hooks. So it's not touching, so they try to skirt the 10% by hanging it on a hook. But I would think like what the Medway one did get to was if you can see it through the window, it's a window sign.
Right,
Unless it's a window display, then that's different.
right. So how do you, rather than letting it go through the whole year of not being able to go in and enforce it, since we're trying to do some beautification now, how would you go about doing
I think we have to wait till next year because we haven't discussed it and it's the 11th hour. I wouldn't feel comfortable just changing the warrant to include something that was never part of the public hearing process for the planning board.
It's to avoid any kind of legal battles. I am not going to enforce anything that's not right.
it? And that's it, that's the whole crux
Which
of
means
it,
it
that's
has
the
to
problem.
go through the town meeting, be approved by the attorney general, go to the printers and land on my desk in paper form. Because if it ever goes to court, that's what the judge is looking for.
So, and that means that the things we did 2 years ago that have not been updated, you don't enforce.
No, those are, when somebody buys a bylaw book, I print this out, this is an insert. It's also on our webpage, as the regulations that were approved last year. So this is in force.
And it's all updated just via that.
So these are the amendments that were approved. So even though they're not in the book, they are official.
They're supposed to be official almost like the first night that it passed.
It is. So it's official when the Attorney General approves, but it's retroactive to the town meeting date.
Okay.
So I guess what I would say, Bob, is it's up to you to interpret. So,
I can. I mean, in the meantime, I can interpret it and make a judgment. And if the person who hung the sign doesn't agree with it, he can always go to the CBA and appeal it.
Right.
That's always the escape route or the pressure valve or, I'm only one guy where the ZBA is a 5-member board representing the town. And if they don't agree with what I've come up with, I'm fine with that. I really am. So that is one avenue we can take.
Yeah, I think you're better off to do that because we did all this work to try to get these things put together and to have it drop because it wasn't brought in early enough. I think we need to do that. We're never going to be able to get moving forward if we don't start to make those changes.
Okay. All right. And then, are we done with the warrant article for signs?
Yeah, I think so. Anybody else?
Were there
have
any other questions on there?
It looks like we addressed them. So he had suggested changing glazing, which we did. He recommended changing review to approved, which we did. Oh, no, it should be reviewed is what he's saying, not approved. Let's see. 17.
That word can be changed, don't you think? Cause that's just the one word, that you have to get the words to them by Friday.
The thing is.
Yeah, like really
The
today.
language is. But the design review committee. Design review committee has no approval authority,
Right.
so I think reviewed is a more appropriate answer. Or more appropriate language.
And who approves it? Does the planning board?
The planning board wouldn't either. So who would approve a window wrap?
No, we talked about.
This
He
is
didn't
an
want that
advisory,
responsibility. He didn't want that responsibility.
the design review committee is advisory though,
Yes.
so you can't technically approve anything.
On
You
that,
can recommend.
yes, but on that note, then we didn't, I don't remember the conversation that, I remember talking about that, but I don't remember the end result of who was going to approve it.
The building inspector, so
But it's not
last
really
year.
assigned.
Last year, we made that modification. So it says that, let's see. Where is it? Where is it? Sign permit approval.
So if the design review committee reviews it and it's horrendous, but it doesn't matter. Because we're only advisory, is that what we're saying? That
Well, we wouldn't approve it anyway, we'd only recommend it for approval, right?
right?
Yeah, because you got 20 days. I remember it's in this bylaw somewhere.
What if we didn't recommend them?
Then it's up to Bob to accept your recommendation or not.
Or we take off window wraps? Like, we're trying to be, no, you want them there?
We've got to start now, because there's an awful lot of new advertising coming up and down the pike. I think it's important that, again, because we're at the last minute now, is when we can't put it. So that's, I think you should be able to go back and make some, even amendments on the floor, if you wanted to make amendments on the floor, because that's what town meeting is about. So, I guess we have to stay with the fact that reviewed and recommended, but then figure out another vehicle for which the signage was going to make a difference, because the discussion was that God doesn't want to be making time to make those decisions on whether or not it's what looks good or doesn't look good, or appropriate or not appropriate. He just wants to be able to enforce.
Well,
Well,
if you
here it
want
is.
to make it approval, you're my authority. Then it's gotta be some sort of a special permit by the planning board, right?
Right.
Here it is. It's in this year's. Design review by the design review committee is required for all wall projecting, awning, or freestanding signs in the downtown business district.
But these are window wraps. And the window wraps are for all
You
districts.
said that for window wraps.
Why wouldn't that apply if it says it there?
It doesn't say that.
It doesn't say required?
Well, it says wall projecting, awning, freestanding. But, and also, what we were looking at, the window wraps in all districts. That's why it's in, this is just for our downtown.
Yeah, so this is where it's, you're reviewing the sign permit application and sending recommendations regarding sign design to the building inspector within 20 days. Failure to act within 20 days shall be deemed a lack of opposition thereto. So you're just providing recommendations.
But that's just for downtown signs, right?
Yep.
So with window wraps,
Which is the same
we
thing
had,
in downtown, if it's downtown.
but it's for all districts, we've had window wraps. Should be reviewed by the design review, but we have approved. So that's Bob's thing, is, he's saying that we can't approve it because we're advisory. So he's saying-
However,
The thing is this, I mean, if it's a design review, and I will obviously try to be there, I mean, if reasonable applicants can't work it out, between, myself, Lori, the design review committee, encouraging these people to, come up with a different design or a better design or whatever. I mean, the chances are, unless it's truly offensive, I would probably just go along with the design review committee and say, listen, I highly recommend you do this. Because I don't want to become the taste police,
Right,
and decide what is going on. I hate to use that phrase, but that's not my job. It's up to you guys to decide if the sign design is appropriate or is creative enough and fits within your guidelines, okay? And, because we have design review, that's when these things get hashed out. And again, typically, if it goes to design review and it comes to me with recommendations, usually those recommendations are agreed to by the applicant in the first place.
right,
I mean, it's a sign, it's not a massive, 3 million square feet building we're worried about,
right,
So as long as it's appropriate to you guys and, the recommendations come to us, number one, chances are they're gonna agree with it. And number two, I'm not about to go against the design review committee.
so do you think should we change it to reviewed?
Well, that's more appropriate and consistent with what is said on, number 2. Although I wonder if it would make more sense to move this sentence to number 2. Design review by the design review committee is required for window wraps in all districts and any wall projecting awning or freestanding sign in the downtown business district.
It's the same thing, but moving it to a different area,
closer together.
all in the same paragraph versus a separate line item under regulations.
Although I feel a bit uncomfortable because that wasn't discussed with the planning board.
Right,
Well,
it's the
then,
same thing, different area.
yeah, so make a note, leave the way it is, make a note to do housekeeping next to it. It doesn't make
Or
sense to
change it
keep
on
all
the floor.
together. Or change it on the floor, again, it's a housekeeping thing, which is something that we can do.
I think housekeeping issues on the floor, so then
And probably just not.
that's a long debate.
Yeah. I think they would
what it
need,
is, they don't really care if it's moved up to sentence going somewhere else, people know, why did, yeah, whatever. I don't think they're gonna be, wait a minute.
Oh, yeah.
get out of order.
Have you been in town, Dana?
Yes,
I know, I'm kidding, but it's the smallest things that get blown out for proportions sometimes.
1 day, 3, 4.
well, yeah.
yeah, we're almost always on day 2.
Or 11:30 at night,
Yeah,
and I wouldn't be awake enough to say
I do
it. Oh, you could.
So what's the ultimate? Should we just change that word? That would be easier to do.
Like you said, and
without-
then it would be a housekeeping thing if we want to change it next year
Yeah.
with the windows. So just leave it easier.
Okay.
But just, then, like I said, make a sticky note, knowing that
Was there anything else on that list?
No, well, this has to do with window signs. I don't think you guys should review all window signs. You don't want to be looking at, their hours of operation and, their open lettering or anything like that, I imagine.
if they're small as that, but I noticed, downtown, we've got 6 packs, $28, I don't know if that's the actual price, but these big now paper pieces in the window advertising that sort of thing, which, I mean, I don't think that that's an attractive look to have 6 different paper banners or whatever you wanna call it, that created that signage that's going in front of the window.
You guys would have to meet like every week.
Well, design review has to see downtown signs anyways.
Yeah,
So that-
One of the things, just as a side note, about a week ago, I took a ride down to the plaza where Rocky's Ace Hardware is. And just about every tenant down there with window signs, or any signs in the window,
Yeah,
would be non-compliant.
Well,
Everyone.
that would be a full-time job for you to go after everybody who has an open sign in their window and.
well, I mean, again, we're not talking about the open ones. I think
Yeah, but where do
that's-
you draw the line?
Well, that's minimalist, but you know what you do is you hire somebody for a couple of months to go down and just do that.
you know, I
Clean
think,
it up.
I think,
More money though, I mean.
I think in our sign bylaw, it says that open signs are
Very good.
permitted,
I
like,
like it.
you don't need a permit or anything for that, they're called out as special. At the end, there's a whole list of signs that don't count,
Okay,
like real estate signs, open signs,
yeah,
so those wouldn't even count in the calculation.
I mean, the thought of hiring somebody to do sign control is absurd. I mean,
No, no.
There's no money in the budget at all. I cannot send out an intern to do it. You know, it's, we're gonna have, if we have to do it, we've gotta do it with the staffing that we have. And again, I said this before, we're gonna have to prioritize, you know, what comes across our desk. You know, and
Yeah.
where do you draw the line? But, you know, like I said, I went down to Rocky Beach Hardware. Just about every window sign down there, that these new rules is not compliant.
well, then there's, you know, then we waste our time making rules that aren't gonna be worthwhile.
But that might also be a reason why the whole thing fails. Putting something like that in there, it would be so onerous for business owners that the town meeting, they just say, nope, can the whole bylaw, which would be a shame.
Are you changing something? Are we changing some language about that right now?
No.
We are.
No,
So
but
why
it has
is
to
that
go
even-
through public hearing.
Yeah, so I think we're
Yeah.
putting some time into,
Yeah.
But if people do wanna shut down the whole thing just because of that one section,
right,
can we drop that section at the meeting?
yes, you can. You can modify at the meeting, that's the whole idea of town meeting.
But a lot of times you don't know until after they vote it. Yeah.
Well, you know, when people start getting up saying, I don't think that's right, I'm not gonna just say yes or no without having a discussion. And at some point in time, you have to decide, do you really wanna make it look different? Or do you wanna just throw your hands up and say, we're wasting our time doing this, let's not waste our time anymore?
I think that's where the meeting vote comes in and how well, you know, the presenters can, for lack of a better term, sell it to the town body. You know, it's up for them to decide. I mean, you know, like all the work that you folks put in is, you know, it's laudable. I mean, it's, you know, you guys spend more time doing this than anybody else I've ever known. You know, so the work is well done and serious. You know, and at the end of the day, all I can really do is present it to the town meeting as best you can and let them decide. You know, it's at some point, it's not my town or your town, it's whoever is in attendance at that meeting.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, they own everything that night.
yeah, it's amazing, 100 people.
Right.
I mean, that's the nature of the New England town meeting. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so I think we're all set with the sign bylaw the way it is for now with that one word change,
Mhm.
and then, okay,
You can know the others. Is there a way we can check to make sure that what Bob was saying has been caught up? Can you tell on the computer that you could hear what Bob was
Yeah,
saying?
I'm monitoring it.
Yes, but it's being recorded that his words are being recorded.
Yeah.
Okay.
so, one last thing, Bob, while you're still here, is Mark is bringing forth a paper that we can forward to you. And I'll let you describe it, Mark, if you want. It has good parking.
Okay, yeah, when I was trying to figure out the parking rule, trying to help a little bit with downtown. So I took all the bylaws and I put them in a chart form, thinking that maybe we could attach it to our guideline, design review guidelines. Just so that you can look up, can sort it by alphabetical order. And if you've got like a retail outlet, you can see the parking spaces required.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be a little more complex than I thought, because when you get into like loading dock requirements, they're kind of separated out in the bylaws versus listed with the items. So I did my best and put them into the sheet the way I think it is, and I highlighted them in red. But, I don't know what I'm doing, so I mean, we need like you guys to look at that and see if I was close. And then, the option, we don't even have to include this in the design, guidelines, or I think it would be helpful though. So we just kind of want opinions.
If you can simplify it, by using a chart or something, that might help. I mean, I will admit that the parking regulations and whatnot, sometimes it's as clear as mud unless you're working with these things every day.
Right,
Fortunately, we've got, local, surveyors and engineers that know what's going on. But, like, for example, the minimum width for an ADA parking space is, I think it's 8 feet. And the town minimum requirement for any other parking space is 9 feet.
Yeah, what's up with that?
And then when you take out parking versus loading dock, trailers, I wouldn't consider trailers to be as part of it. I would consider that a trailer parking situation while they're backed up to the docks is a separate condition than passenger cars coming in and people coming in and out of work.
yeah.
So, like I said, if you want to take a stab at it to make it easier for people to understand, I'm happy to review it.
Okay, yeah, so there's a few things I couldn't even figure out, so. One of the biggest questions I had was with the mixed use, where you get to discount the number of spaces required by 25% for every 5,000 feet of building space. And there's no limit to that, so the bigger the building, the less parking spaces you need.
Well, I think that would come under, the guidelines of site plan review. And whoever's doing the site plan review would have to take that out. I mean, it's, and the thing is, maybe there should be a hard limit to what is allowed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
If they want to take a deduction or a reduction, typically there's a limit, But yeah, I mean, it's, right, or no questions down, we'll try to come up with an answer for you.
okay, yeah, that was the only one, I just think that should have some limit to it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't have the book in front of me. But, write it up and we'll take a look at it and see what.
Okay, yeah, I've got a spreadsheet that shows it.
Yeah, I believe the reduction is a special permit from the site plan approval authority.
Yeah, it does say something about special permit.
With mixed use is that, if you've got a decent sized building and it's mixed use, say offices during the day and residences upstairs, because of your offset of parking demand times, most of the residences or many of the residents, the cars aren't there during the day. They come back at night, whereas during the day, the offices are there.
Yeah,
So, you've got to be careful to have that allowance in there someplace, especially with mixed use in downtown, because we can't park on the street. The parking is required at the back of the building with a few limited exceptions to the side of the building. So you've got to be careful to, keep that available to people.
yeah,
Yeah,
Well, the hardest part about this is that COVID was the perfect example, is now more and more people don't necessarily go into an office.
yeah,
And even now, they may go into an office 2 days a week.
Yeah.
And stay home 3 days a week.
I've got 3 people working at home at my house.
Right.
They're always in my way.
yeah, the concept is good, it's just that
Take my
the
part.
limit should probably kick in at some point.
Right.
And I'm just using the West Main Street as the example, where it's a 26,000 square foot building. And if you were to follow this, you know, to the letter of what's written, you only need 26 parking spaces for it, assuming that it's, you know, one space per 300 square feet. And where normally you would need 83. So, I mean, I could see a maximum of 50% reduction or something like that. But, I mean, we're not gonna solve this now, but,
It's a good something.
It's a good start, though, to
Yeah.
make a chart.
Yeah, I think.
well, I wanted to think about on West Main Street and limit what the possible uses are for parking requirements, just because it's got whatever the number of parking spaces are, what, 45 or something like that.
45, yeah.
And so that rules out some uses right there. But I never get to the point where figuring out what it rules out. Because it is going to be mixed use.
I just wanted Mark to be able to bring it up today, so he doesn't put more time in it and then have, like, you or Lori say, oh, no, we're not gonna do that, you know, we don't want him to,
No, the
But it-
table is a good idea, and it's definitely much easier to
yeah.
look at this
Yeah,
than it is
it
to
brings
read
in
this.
loading docks into the same uses, which is good to know, I guess. So you don't get blindsided by it.
Right.
The assisted living development that we did on King Street had no loading.
Yeah, let's say that was, there is no loading requirements for residential, but I just wondered about assisted living in nursing homes, whether they do need some type of dock or something for kitchen services. I don't know, you know, I just kind of flagged it as,
Depending on the size of it.
And depending on whether they have that service.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
because, because they're changing around now, how you're gonna run it. So, and more things are probably gonna be made off-site and brought in.
Hmm.
Hmm.
All right, thank you. I do think it's easier than all the writing.
Okay,
Yeah, I
so
think
I'll
so,
send it out to everybody, or I'll send it to you, send it out to everybody. And just to review it,
Yeah.
I'm saying, I'm thinking we can stew over this for a couple of months or whatever.
Make it for next year. No, I like it. I think you've done a great job.
Yeah.
Can I ask one quick question? You're on your way out, right? We're all done with questions for Bob? The questions for Bob Center of the design review. To get you a nice, V-neck sweater so you can answer the questions properly. I just, huh?
Cardigan, isn't it?
I was carrying that.
No idea what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, you told me, what are you talking about? I'm tired, I don't want to listen. I have a question in terms of, down on the strip mall that has, that used to be the Western, was that the Western clothing?
Oh,
Pick
well,
all
the
stuff.
package store?
Yeah, the new package store.
Yeah,
They have a very bright, smoke shop light on there now. And, number one, I don't think you should have any neons, but this thing is blares at night. Is that allowed?
well, any sign that creates unreasonable glare or brightness, is controllable by an enforcement.
Okay.
You know, in terms of the smoke shop, I have to see what he has inside for a smoke shop,
Okay.
you know, I mean, I cut way back on my drinking, so I don't frequent liquor stores that much anymore.
I'll buy you a 6-pack.
He really likes bourbon.
Oh, bourbon, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Bourbon and Guinness, yeah.
Okay, oh, I could have brought you some back from Ireland.
I can buy there and take a look, and, you know, if it's too bright, I can tell them to turn it down or take it away.
Yeah,
Plus I'll take a walk inside and see what they've got going on.
right, because, I mean, it's changed since we gave them a liquor license, it's changed dramatically.
So they're off after hours, right?
And
No,
and it used to be flashing.
Well,
Yeah.
isn't that a violation right there? If they're
Yeah.
not off?
well, yeah,
All signs need to be turned off between midnight and I think 6 AM unless a variance by the ZBA or a special allowance by the board. Again, I may be off a little bit, but typically, illuminated signs are supposed to be shut off midnight to 6.
Okay,
right.
and there's,
Again,
is there residential across the street?
Midnight.
I
It's
know.
not residential across the street, because it's where, Rockies is across the street.
Yeah, but no, that little thing that used to have that olive oil place and stuff in it.
Oh,
Is that-
yes,
is that
that's right,
residential
that
above?
is residential over there,
Yeah, because those people would have standing if they want to complain.
right,
It's-
yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, it really is, it's an unnecessary glare.
Yeah, I'll go take a look.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
well,
you.
thanks for joining us.
Feel better, Bob?
Yep, feel better.
Thank you. I'm working on it.
See you
All
later.
right, all right, take care. Bye.
Yeah, bye now.
Okay, so, I think we, is there anything else that anybody wants to? I think we've handled everything that's on the, agenda for today.
Okay. Are you both making presentations at town meeting?
I am making a presentation on the downtown. But I am preparing the presentation for the planning board and the CPC,
Okay.
but not giving it.
Okay, all right,
I am gonna probably do the signs,
okay.
but if anybody else wants to do it, they can, because I am like, I changed my major in college for because of public speaking. So I'm like not the best one to do a presentation, it was like, so if anybody else wants to do it, they can. But I think it has to be a planning board person, right?
Yeah, probably.
Or it could be Lori.
No, I'd be happy not to do it.
Kathy used to do them, but then Carrie took them back. She's like, I think we should be doing them. And,
I'm always happy to, answer questions to the best of my ability, so. Usually I stand up a few times to do that, but, yeah,
Do you think
whatever you
in,
guys want.
in future, like we've tried to talk about doing, any zoning and stuff in the fall?
I would love
To
that.
try to shorten the,
yeah,
because the problem I saw in grouping things together is that now you have to pull it out, you have to be aware there's something in there. And I don't think town meeting should be done on a speed dial. I think it should be done so people can discuss it, and zoning is something that people could discuss. But when it's 11 o'clock at night, nobody's discussing. When it's, at the end of a meeting, there's a whole lot of pluses to separate those. And then you have half a year if you have to make repairs to things.
I think the way it's set up with the zoning always being at the end
Mm.
is people are annoyed.
Right.
So they're annoyed because it's a boring subject.
Yeah.
And then, there's often so many of them, so it may negatively impact the ability of them to pass
Right,
because people are annoyed.
right.
So a lot of towns do it in a fall town meeting. I personally think that would be good. I would much rather attend one night in the
Right.
spring and one night in the fall
Right.
than 2 nights or 3 nights in the spring.
Yeah,
I
you're
think
gonna have a
that's too
different
much
crowd
to
too,
ask.
people that care more about the
Right.
bylaws.
And people who have to get babysitting, because if you shorten up a night with information, not rush the information, and they can do it again, then you've got a better chance of having attendance and people that are aware. And I was always hoping that we would be able to get that booklet out early, like in Arizona, I know they send the whole thing out well over a month before the meeting, so that people are prepared and they can ask questions. I think that's a bigger problem too, is that you come into a meeting, you pick a book up on the table and you sit down and you go, okay, what does this mean?
right,
And that's the bigger problem, because if you're gonna keep having town meeting as your government, you need to make it so that you can speak. And I think that's what we've lost a lot of, is that, okay, as we've gotten bigger and all the talk gets longer, that you don't really give any great detail. It's just, okay, yes or no, bye, done, next.
right.
Well, I know, in my town, I get the warrant mailed to my house maybe 2 weeks in advance. And I used to like that as a planning director, because then people would reach out to me before town meeting with their questions. And it would give me an opportunity to clarify in that format instead of at town meeting.
Right, or be prepared at town meeting to know that that's gonna be something that, it deserves better explanation.
Right.
Because I think one of the things, even that's why I've asked twice today about this, if somebody's watching and you can't hear the person speaking, it's kind of,
Right.
let's try to do that. So, I think that would be great if we could then maybe set, it's not you guys, but bringing it up later, maybe under policies and procedures to change that.
I did hear them talking about it Monday night,
I
but
don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's, you know, helpful for everybody.
and I think it's better for zoning too, because like you say, like people might go at the beginning for a different article and then see the zoning and decide to stay, but they have no idea what it's about. If fall is all zoning and they get the book, then the people who are really interested will go.
Right. I
And
think-
they might come out and ask questions.
Yeah.
I don't, you normally get the people there for the big vote, you know, we go in the athletic field, that's all they care about,
Hmm,
the different crowd.
it's true, yeah, money crowd versus only crowd.
Yeah.
So,
Right, so all good ideas.
I wanted to ask something else and now I can't remember what it was.
So the dentist might come back next month.
So he's waiting, so just an update on the dentist. He, was denied by Mass DOT, the second egress. So he, is trying to figure out how to get his parking on the other side of the building where his current parking lot is. So he's trying to expand his parking lot. But he doesn't want to come back here until he knows that Mass DOT is okay with the revised design, because he doesn't want to waste anybody's time. So when he hears from Mass DOT, then he'll come back. So he's just gonna let me know.
Okay.
Okay, I've been being barraged by his ads on Facebook, so maybe he should cut back. He doesn't want that anymore.
Yeah.
This is probably under new business, we don't know. We had talked about, one time, writing up a little blurb about what design review is all about. Because at the last meeting, it was, we don't need that. And yet many towns have it. I don't think there is a town at this point that doesn't have it. But I think that there's a lot of confusion as to what it's all about. Why design review and why it's something that's helpful for the town and everything else. So at one point, I was gonna write a letter that we could look at, and if everybody's in agreement with what the letter says, maybe either, do a letter to the editor and put it in there so people can read it.
Yeah, I've noticed on Facebook, there's a developer in town, you probably not figure out who it is, but he comments about all the committees you have to go through to get something approved here, and he doesn't understand that if he's not looking for variances, he doesn't have to go before those committees. And if we get that word out there, look at the guidelines, figure out that you're in compliance, then it makes everybody's life a lot easier.
Right, because I mean, I've seen a write-up, a nice write-up about design review and what it's all about and the importance of it. And I can maybe pen something together for our next meeting. Are we having another meeting before town?
Not before town meeting.
Okay.
But you know what would be good too, is part of the letter at the end, if it's going into letter to the editor.
Yeah.
You can say that we're looking for, we have open spots too.
Well, that's.
It could be a little plug, this is what we do, and
Yeah.
come join our team.
We do have a bit of a blurb on our webpage, but that could be expanded to be more descriptive as to what the committee does. So,
Right,
yeah, if you wanna write something up, then.
all right, because I'm kind of mad at myself that I had it on the computer and I just left it forever. But I really think it's important that people, again, the more knowledge, the better everybody responds.
And we could also do frequently asked questions.
Ooh,
So we do that for other boards and committees.
in the paper?
No, on the webpage.
Oh,
So usually applicants are going there
Yeah.
because that's where they're getting the information. So that's where our bylaws are, our applications. So I believe the planning board page has a frequently asked questions. Probably the ZBA,
yeah,
we could do that for design review as well.
okay, you could refer to that in this letter, you could refer to that as well for more information.
Yeah.
Go to the webpage, because a lot of people, if you're a developer, you do this all the time, yeah. They're not the ones that I'm actually thinking is the audience at this point, because they're not the ones at town meeting making the decisions. It's the person who comes in off the street, who comes in and has a preconceived notion of what it is. And that at this point it's been tarnished, and I'd like to see it buffed up a little bit and made Give it a better framework, because we do need new people. You need new volunteers to come in and help with it, because it is a town-wide benefit.
Mhm.
So it's not something you just, we don't want that. I mean, that was kind of surprising to hear that. It's the individual you might not want it, it's not the product. So let's get right down to it. So, okay, let's get new individuals and then let's see, but that's why I'm saying I thought it was kind of.
We're not talking about you, Mark.
Well, no, because I've never even reviewed a project.
Right.
so.
We want you to all know that Mark has done nothing wrong.
Well, despite what you read in the paper.
That's right, so,
All right.
All right.
Sounds good. Okay. All right.
We all set?
Yeah, I don't even think we have to call to adjourn, do we? Like,
Yeah, I think
Yes,
so,
we still
yeah.
do.
oh, we
yeah.
still
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Voted first.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thanks.